we're finally going to read the letter from the chairman. I was on a plane. I read it for 2 seconds. I'm not a very big fan of flying, and I read the first paragraph and didn't need the stress. And I just avoided. I took a proper 7-day break from Star Citizen, from streaming, from YouTube, from basically the internet. I just played a little bit of Manor Lords and a little bit of Eve, and the rest of the time was like watching Jeopardy and diners, drive-ins, and dives with my dad, shoveling snow, just, chilling out and enjoying some time with my family, which was fantastic. So I'm back and I'm ready to be annoyed by Chris Roberts. So let's read the letter from the chairman. As we wrap up 2025, I want to take a moment to reflect on the year and what it's meant for all of us. 2025 became the year of playability for Star Citizen. No, it didn't. No, it did not. And that's probably that's I think that's when I closed this. No, it did not. That was your goal. You achieved some aspects of your letter, and you utterly failed in others. So it's weird. Did I play it more than ever? Yes, of course. Did they fix a lot of the issues? Absolutely. Right? But as many of us are experiencing in the game currently, or you did before the holiday break, everything that they did stock are piled up to create the bad experience that you have now in the game, which is exactly what they've done over the years, is put content in a tier 0 state, do not maintain it, and then it falls flat on its face over and over and over again. I think anybody who is grinding for any Wicklow ship, there is a very annoying issue with every one of those grinds that you're trying to get. It could be a major bug, like inventory issues on ace pilots, or the inability to kill them at all without doing a crazy song and dance, to just annoying bugs that have simple workarounds, right? They said that momentum did not happen by chance. It came from a focused effort to improve quality of life, performance, and reliability, and make the gameplay experience more engaging and rewarding to return to. I can largely agree with this statement outside of quality of life. I think they focused on some quality of life things, but there are very obvious, really bad quality of life issues that have not been addressed. I believe they think tier 0 item recovery is quality of life. And it absolutely is. But then it also did not improve the quality of life in other examples. Hey, they had an entire segment of CitizenCon talking about instancing. Where one of the biggest issues in the game, one of the biggest problems in the game, in terms of tier 0 item recovery, is the worm fight. Because they built it as an instance, but you have tier 0 item recovery there. Therefore, people can literally set their spawn there, log out. When they log back in, backspace, and end up checking to see if anybody's doing a worm there. If they are, kill you and take your stuff. Kind of broken. Just a little bit broken. So some aspect, like that's the thing here, is they're only going to say the positive. And what I said before I watched this letter, or before I'm reading this letter, is this letter in this first few sentences feels like they're a publicly traded company and that they have to speak positively to their investors so their stock price goes up. When in reality, I think being honest and recognizing the issues that you had and telling us what you're going to do to improve on, like, to call this year like perfect, essentially, because like we set out a goal and we achieved it, is not what happened. It was the best year that Star Citizen ever had. But when every other year was the most steaming pile of shit possible, and you couldn't even remotely call it a video game, where now you can, I think, a little bit at least. I think it's very important that they recognize their faults, their issues, and things like that. So, yeah. All right. So it came from focused effort to improve quality of life. I don't think they achieved that. They absolutely improved performance. They absolutely improved reliability. Like, for me, if they hammered home like the we dealt with reliability, and that has been one of the biggest problems Star Citizen has had in its entire history, and we really dealt with that. And like, bro, I'd be high-fiving Chris Roberts right now through the letter and being like, you absolutely did that. And yeah, they did fantastic. And I think they made the gameplay experience more engaging and rewarding than it's ever been. Now, I don't think they're doing it in the best way possible. I think they're doing it with FOMO stuff and these weird grinds with Wicklow that, okay. But reliability has absolutely improved. We all know what the game felt like last year. We all know what the game felt like at the beginning of this year. We all know what the game has felt like for the last 6 years. That is absolutely something that they achieved and did really well, and I'm very happy about that. We started the year with 2 clear goals as a company: to improve stability and quality of life in Star Citizen while continuing to deliver regular content updates, and push Squadron 42 towards beta and release in 2026. Everybody freaked out thinking beta was going to be like a public beta. I think that's what people were thinking. Xylo, multiple times on Reddit after this, is beta's an internal milestone. Not public. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I'm happy to say we made great progress on both fronts. This was not 2 clear goals, by the way. This was 4 written here, so that's really weird. But I don't think they made great progress in quality of life. I'm going to stay. I will die on that hill. I think quantum travel is horrible. I think FPS gunplay is horrendous. One of the worst experiences I've had in any game in my entire life. I don't think that they've improved anything around looting and your inventory. We've constantly lost things with LTP. Like, most of the experience, like, guys, you're experiencing inventory all the time. You're experiencing quantum travel all the time, right? What? No. You have not improved quality of life on the major issues that we have in the game. If they're going, oh, we put tier 0 item recovery in, which absolutely made some experiences much better, even coming from somebody like me who hates it. Yeah, no. You did not. And I will not let him stand there and just say everything is fine when it is clearly not, because if we all pat them on the back and say everything is fine, great job, Chris, then what do they do next year? Are they not going to deal with the quantum travel issues? Are they not going to? I mean, obviously, we know they're going to deal with some inventory things because the inventory is changing, and they said it would be more performant, stuff like that. More patch bundles. Stop talking about the sales as if the sales equal the priorities at the company. Like, I've seen you, like, Sladowug, you've typed it in chat like 50 times, and I think we could see chat now. But you're just being an idiot, I think, in the sense of, like, the fact that they do some stupid patch bundle that is a problem, in my opinion. I agree with you, there are problems. The idea here is anyone telling them that this quantum travel is pain? Is anyone telling them that, you know, these other things are pain besides me? Or is everybody just patting them on the back? And I know that at that company, everything falls on deaf ears from me. So it doesn't matter what I say. They're not listening to me because I just complain, right? Um, but if nobody does, then they're just going to think that they're doing great all the time. And I don't think this year is as great as this man is saying it was in this letter so far. All right. On the Star Citizen side, 2025 saw a number of important pieces come together. We released not one, but 2 star systems in a single year. You released Pyro and did nothing in it. And it's relatively dead. Contested zones have never been addressed, the major issues with those. Talk about quality of life there. And then you released a landing zone in Nyx. I don't think we've released Nyx in a... This is again just patting themselves on the back, saying things as if it would make their stock price go up. But I'm not against the way that they handled Nyx. I am not happy with the way Pyro's kind of been left to die. I would love to see more risk-reward gameplay happen in Pyro. But I think they're doing Nyx the right way. I have no issue with the way they're doing Nyx because we saw what happened with Pyro. 4 years of talking about Pyro over and over again, Sneak showing us pictures and images and editor footage and other footage, and then finally releasing it after many, many years of work. I think it's totally fine to piece out a star system slowly like they did Stanton and allow us to play it during that experience. Where's the ocean in ArcCorp? Buddy, stop. Is the ocean on ArcCorp going to change anything about your experience with the game? Or is it just a screenshot that you want to take? Stop. Like, if that's the hill you want to die on, I feel like we're never going to get a good game. I feel like I want 20 Aaron's Halo. Who cares? Who cares what some dumbass lore team made up 15 years ago? Right? It's a troll question. It is a troll. It may be a troll question. Fine, but the thing that we run into is it's not. It may be for you, but a lot of people like hyperfixate on this individual thing that Chris Roberts said 10 years ago that this is the way. Like, I wish they just took a more macro view at the game and went, yeah, we got nothing here. Let's take 2026 and be simple. Hey, let's let players trade between each other. Let's create like simple money sinks, which I do know that they had mentioned money sinks towards the end of 2026, so that's exciting. Can't wait to see how they screw that one up. But the general idea here is I want to see them keep things much more simple in 2026, where they were very kind of in-depth, complicated, somewhat complicated, probably complicated to bring into the game systems, and not systems, but content like the Worm, like Hathor, and things like that. And unfortunately, we see what they're going to bring into 2026 through CitizenCon, and it's more of the same. And I think we just need to keep it simple, stupid. Again, they have made the thing that separates them from every other game imaginable, and that is the flying from space through clouds onto the surface, walking around your ship the entire time, and it's just an experience unlike any other. Keep it simple from there, and at least for now, get more complicated as they grow. And I feel like this game's going to have endless growth. Endless growth. It'll be pretty wild. And the other thing that I don't see them doing is pushing for more players in a server, which is rough. And I see the word server meshing mentioned. So They added new locations around the verse, opening more space to explore and spend time in. Okay. Server meshing was the key technology that made all this possible. With the release of 4.0.1 to the live environment on January 28th, we moved into a bigger, more performant, and stable universe for a time until Hathor came out. It was pretty incredible, actually, how performant the server was. And then Hathor came out and something happened. And all of a sudden, the server started dipping in their frame rates and never really recovered from there. And while there was a few hiccups with some legacy systems like elevators, air traffic control that were built long before server meshing was conceived, buddy, what? Yeah, this is where I just want to go, please be honest. This was not a hiccup. A hiccup is a slight annoyance. Your game was completely unplayable. It was completely broken. Right? That's crazy. And these were not long before server meshing was thought of. This was thrown in to make the game feel like it works without building the underlying systems like server meshing. But they obviously didn't have the funding to be able to do that, so they had to kind of fake it until we got here, and here we are now, and doesn't matter. We're here. Server meshing itself has been working flawlessly since the beginning. What? Okay, server meshing itself, but every system that touched it did not. So sure, but I absolutely recall quantum traveling over a server line and my ship stopping, my ship pips resetting, losing items in my inventory in the back of my ship, many issues with server meshing. So that is an interesting way of saying it. While true, some definite wordsmithing there. A testament to the design and execution of the system by our network, backend, engine, and gameplay teams. And hey, I think we got to give them a little bit of a hand there. Honestly, like, pretty game-changing for us. Server meshing, we got another star system that they did nothing with. We got a second star system that they're slowly building out. They, again, have this, like, play space that the potential was endless before, and it's, like, bigger now with these things. It's just, what are you going to do with that potential is still what I'm waiting for. So, yeah, I mean, server meshing was largely great and kind of met the goals that we would have hoped for, but server frame rates are garbage. And that was the thing that I was expecting. I was expecting to, like, look and see 30 on a fairly regular basis. I don't think we ever see that now unless the server just started. Every day it handles tens of thousands of people playing concurrently in shared instances up to 700 players. Again, that's not necessarily something to be proud of, but yeah, they're about to say why it is something to be proud of. It can't be their goal, though. It has to be bigger than this. For something that simulates everything to the level of detail that we do, again, the thing that gives them the endless potential that they have, at the scale we do, the other thing that gives them the endless potential that they have, in first and third person, the other thing that gives them the endless potential that they have, this is truly a mind-boggling achievement. As a player, okay, I mean, internally, that's probably, like, you know, the biggest high five moment for them. That's when Chris was crying and Benoit was pogging and all that stuff, right? As a player, I still fly around and never see anybody. You rarely see enough people to interact with, right? Space is very big. So it still needs to be better at some point. I'm not expecting it to be better today, tomorrow. I just hope, like, when I'm reading this, like, is this good enough for them? Are they happy with this number of players? And are they just going for more performance? We'll see what they say for the rest of the video, but or the rest of the letter, but that was the thing where I was like, they addressed this? Okay, cool. Most other multiplayer games top out of between 50 to 100 players in a much more contained space than we allow you to explore in Star Citizen. This is bullshit, right? This is like a kind of a big load of bullshit. Because, yes, there are 700 players throughout a massive play space where essentially they're on a different server, right? And that's what this lets them do. Most other multiplayer games, they're comparing themselves to Battlefield in this case. And then the MMOs with high player counts in the same instance don't simulate and render the world to the extent that we do, because they care about gameplay and not about just fidelity. And this is where they need to start giving up on some of the fidelity or something. Something has to give here, because this game like kind of has to be an MMO. It can't be Battlefield. It can't be like Conan Exiles. Like, it's not a thing where we're going to have like private servers of 50 people and you have like this tiny play space. Arc Raiders or it just doesn't make sense. It kind of has to be an MMO given how much play space there is, which means they have to come up with ways to have lots of players in one place at the same time. And I don't know how they're going to achieve that. And that's where it's like, all right, you've built something very cool, but how are you going to make it work? And they don't seem to, like, based on this, they're just kind of like, well, we're better than Battlefield. And you're like, but that's not your competition here. You have no competition. Your competition is basically every AAA gamer out there with a PC good enough to play this game might be interested in this if they just did something. Better than Battlefield? Well, not in the gameplay sense, but in the number of players in an instance. And the thing is like, what are Battlefield servers running at as well, right? So I know it's a meme, but isn't optimization usually the last stage of development? Star Citizen is not a typically developed game. So they do the optimization during the PTUs. You're playing a finished product. You're just playing the finished product of that patch. Each patch. The game would never look like this if it was typical development, right? So that's like a moot point. Battlefield is shit gameplay-wise. You're not getting the point that I'm trying to say here. It may be shit gameplay-wise, but is it performant? Does your gun fire? We don't have that. Server meshing was key technology that made it all possible. With the release of 4.0.1 to the live environment on January 28th, we moved into a bigger, more performant, and stable universe. Oh, I already read that. Okay. We're here now. As multiple servers now manage our vast universe, the individual server performance has greatly increased. Bullshit. On average, probably, because no one's in Pyro or something. But it increased at the beginning of the year, and it's in the single digits now, as he's writing this letter. BF servers are 15 tick rate. Really? Okay, that's surprising. I thought they would have been higher. Creating a much better experience for all of you. It was at the beginning of the year. I was clapping for that. It doesn't feel like there's something that's gone on ever since Hathor came out. Server performance started taking a dive. I imagine there are servers that are performing, but it's not the ones where the gameplay is, typically. And due to its design with separate service that tracks the state of the universe for all servers and clients, it allows us to quickly recover from a client crash or server crash without losing your progress. which is a huge quality of life win. Yes. Not much to say there. That was a good thing. Not having 30Ks is the entire reason that all of their metrics is up. BS6 is 60 hertz tick rate. I thought so. Be weird if it wasn't. We also ship more mission content and in-game events this year than ever before this year. That included large-scale moments like teaming up to take on an irradiated Apex Valakar or coming to face-to-face with your Mandy, as well as longer-running storylines that help add depth and context to the verse. You did not add depth or context to the verse. Unfortunately, I feel like this is like one of the biggest failures of the year. Was the storylines were incredibly not engaging and boring. The thing that was engaging were the rewards that you gave, not the story itself. I can't wait for a story to really matter. I was so excited, and I was engaged with. I mean, I guess maybe it achieved it because I was engaged with the Dr. Yorit storyline. It seemed very spooky. What's going to happen next? And then nothing happened, and it was just like, okay. Yeah. So again, if they're continuously, and we are patting them on the back for these things, do they know where their failures are? Is the thing that I struggle with. And I know it may sound like I'm complaining about everything, but if they're constantly patted on the back by us and not been like, hey, that's not really how it felt, right? It didn't add context to the verse. The regen crisis was such a load of shit. It wasn't happening to us. It was only happening to NPCs. Why would we care? There was like just so much wrong there. And then Dr. Jorrit, we never even saw him. There wasn't this boss battle at the end against it, like a typical thing that you would experience. Maybe that hasn't ended yet. But then we go to Nyx, and it's like, oh, okay, this is where he got the Vandal. That's the context, I guess. But all the NPCs feel exactly the same. They don't act any different. They may hold different weapons and have different armor, but that doesn't really have a lot of meaning or context in the game yet, or depth. So there's a lot of, they all have British accents, which is understandable. So that's where they get their that's where they're located. It would be cool if we, went with other accents. I think there's other people with other accents in England. Maybe they should try something like that. That's a very good idea to try to differentiate, right? But, there's they don't act different. They don't. Yeah, there's no like difficulties and differences and things like that. So that's something where, again, let's say something positive. I've never played the game more than I have this year. I thought Wicklow was like this really good grind. All of the content that you grind things for Wicklow tend to be enjoyable in some aspects and not enjoyable in others. And we were forced to. You're not forced to play a video game that's an alpha that's bad. You're not forced to do anything. To say that you're forced, you are delusional. You are not forced to play video games, buddy. You're forced to if you want rewards. There's the word want in that. Right? You're not forced to. That's silly. Yeah, I did not consent to playing the Valakar. It's like, what? So it just did not add context. It added a bit of depth, I think. I thought some of the puzzles and stuff was really, really cool. FOMO is a real psychological tool, though. All video games have FOMO, and I think time-driven events in MMOs they're the best. I think they're the best. They make me want to play the game. They make me want to grind. I love getting the reward at the end. They work on me. I think that they're totally fine. They don't bother me. I am cool with it. I like that. I like that the things that I have, and Star Citizen doesn't do this because they're idiots. The things that I earn during these events are the reminders of me being there during that event. What Star Citizen will do, again, because they're idiots, is that they'll put this into the loot pool at some point, and somebody who made absolutely no effort except for opening a fucking box is going to get the things that I, worked really hard for and were there for. And again, because they have no clue how the psychology of actual players work, they only know the psychology of how swipers work. So yeah. Cool. The environments continue to evolve as well. Expanded weather effects and planetary conditions help to make locations feel more distinct. Yes. Atmospheric. Yes. While improvements to characters, player interaction, and AI contributed to a more intuitive experience. Okay. The second part of the sentence, again, at a very low level, maybe. We also expanded the vehicle lineup. Yeah, of course you did. 24 new vehicles while continuing to improve the ships and ground vehicles already in your hands. Supporting all of this has significantly increased pace of delivery compared to previous years. Yes, it was awesome, but it was exhausting. I imagine for the developer, it was super exhausting. Just to cover it every week for Week in Review was exhausting. In 2025, Star Citizen delivered 11 major patches, more than 40 live publishes, 147 PTU builds, and several tech previews. Like 2. Okay. This new pace allowed us to iterate faster, respond to feedback sooner, and to deliver more content to play throughout the year. This was the best part. These were the best parts. They definitely responded to feedback sooner, but then eventually would stop, right? Hathor, they were supporting it through that PTU, and then probably the next patch, and then gradually was like, oh, well, yeah, I got other things to do. I'm done with Hathor. Contested zones? Oh, those doors that people can glitch through? Yeah, we got ships to sell. It's IAE though, and then it was just like, whatever, and it's still there. So in some cases, they absolutely responded to feedback sooner, and the best part about it is, except for right now, is if you had a bad patch, you kind of knew a hotfix was coming right around the corner, which was something that we didn't have much experience with in the past, or you just had to wait a little while, and it would likely be over. They would deal with the problem. So, not so bad. And so I kind of hope they keep doing that this year. We close the year with the introduction of engineering in Star Citizen Alpha 4.5, adding new layers of interaction, decision-making, and responsibility to managing your ship. How's that going? As somebody who, took a break over the holidays, I feel like your ship just still explode, and you're not engaging with the engineering loop in multi-crew that much. Unless you're role-playing. I saw a big fight between Shadow Moses and Space Cutlet and Griefernet, and I saw videos of them. I just saw the cockpit view, so I never saw anybody actually doing engineering, but they were actively engaging in repairing and shooting at certain parts of the ship. But a lot of that is kind of roleplay because there's no reason for those guys to be fighting, right? And that's fine, but on your day-to-day experience, has it really changed the game for you is my question, right? outside of those guys it's like largely kind of a role play type thing. Even though it's not role play, it's still you're faking it so it's fun. Um in your day-to-day, are you dealing with that? Or are you just kind of I found myself just going back to the station and repairing just like I used to, but more often. And then you just claim the ship. Claiming hasn't changed, right? So none of your ships are enabled for engineering. I mean, that's the other thing. Just the panel is the only thing that you have. Engineering is an important step towards the deeper systemic experience I've always wanted to build, where coordination and your crew truly matter. I hope they get there because I think that will be cool. But I don't think they're there yet. And I think, again, we need to keep kind of telling them that like, hey, I'm not really engaging with this loop. So if you want me to engage with it, something's got to change. And we know they're going to continue on that one. Again, I think that they're just rushing so Chris Roberts can write a letter. That's why Nix came out. That's why engineering came. I don't think it was much of a reason other than that. While future systems such as Maelstrom's physically based materials and destruction more realistically shield gameplay with generators and emitters, and our upcoming crafting system will further deepen engineering, it was important to bring engineering into the verse now so we can begin refining the experience in the live environment. That might be true as well. They really need us to say, hey, we're not engaging with this, or I am engaging with this. This part of it's fun, that part of it's not. And then when they actually build it out, it'll be better. But it's always the next tech that we need. Yeah, just one more tech, guys, and then the game will be fun. More realistic shield gameplay was not something that I thought Maelstrom was delivering, and that sounds to me like the team is hearing the feedback. One of the things that I think engineering has really highlighted is shields are largely pointless because fights bring shields down so quickly. They aren't pointless, but they're such a short part of the fight that I think a lot of people are kind of like, why do I even have these in a lot of scenarios, right? Like, this is the most exciting thing I've read in the letter. Is how is this going to change this? And is the word realistic a synonym for fun? Or is the word realistic a synonym for overcomplex, another dog shit mechanic that we didn't need to do? I don't know. So I'm interested to see what happens there. We'll just put it that way, but cautiously optimistic. And then crafting, obviously, everyone knows I'm excited for. Whenever that happens, I can't wait to dive into that. I'm not. There's been a lot of patches where I've just been like, whatever. It doesn't matter until crafting. It doesn't matter until crafting. It doesn't matter until crafting. I'm very curious what I will feel like when that happens. And then finally, a Christmas surprise, we quietly released an experimental VR mode in Alpha 4.5. What began as by the way, I have to go pick up my VR headset today. What began as a passion project quickly caught people's attention, and the response from those who have tried it has been genuinely exciting. I hope it's still there. We'll see. There's a huge problem with the post office. I've long believed that Star Citizen is a natural fit for VR because of how we build our worlds. We physicalize almost everything, keeping first and third person views consistent in a shared universe. That approach takes more effort, but makes the experience feel grounded and real, and it highlights the value of those design choices in a way that other technologies can. Yeah, but it also just like doesn't work for the game. It's weird. But it does. It only works in like the immersion aspect, right? Which is great. But it's just wonder, like, is everything just meant to be immersive and nothing is meant to be MMO like when we talked MMO for a couple of years now? I don't know. Um, Being able to experience ships, environments, and equipment at true scale with natural movement and directional audio adds a level of immersion that's difficult to capture on a traditional display. All the detail that we put into environments. I mean, for me, guys, I've never used VR, so it's like I just keep reading this, and it's like this is like one of the largest sections that we had in the entire letter, and it's just all VR. Um, so I struggle with this. All right. All of this, combined with our hard focus on bug fixing and quality of life features, has made Star Citizen more fun, stable, and playable than ever. And the numbers back it up. Again, most of the bugs after the initial PTU patch were the bugs that were fixing on the new content that you added. Almost all of your bug fixes were on the new content being added in each patch outside of a handful of ones that you got from the last patch. Every patch, for some reason, said 140 bug fixes in the notes. So I don't believe you anymore because it just seemed copy and paste and just complete bullshit. You actually didn't fix a lot of things, like somebody's saying in chat. You never fixed the root cause. You just added more band-aids to the things that were broken a lot of the times. So yeah, I don't think if we were actually caring about bug fixing and quality of life features, we would have actually fixed the root of the cause of the problem and didn't, right? I don't think that's what made Star Citizen more fun. I think what made Star Citizen more fun for me is actual reasons to play, like things like contested zones, regardless of how exploited they are. I have my F7A Mark II that I stole from a group of players who were doing it. That was a great experience. I have, found some Hathor materials or, doing the worm with my friends. That was a great experience. That's what made Star Citizen more fun. Not necessarily the fact that it took me 16 times to quantum travel to 3 different points, or after I switched from my med gun, I dropped my gun and died, and had my good thing I had my friends to pick me up, right? That kind of thing. We had record-setting engagement this year. Again, I don't think it's because of bug fixing, quality of life. I think it's because of the FOMO for some fairly decent rewards in the events. I think some of the skins were really cool. I think some of the rewards were really nice and were worth the grind. So players joined. I think that's really what it was for. And then on top of that, you had the Wicklow grind, which UEX shows people actually do engage with, right? So I really hope... I don't think they understand their player base, or they do understand their player base, but I don't think they understand who their 10 years from now player base will be versus who their current player base is. Potentially. You set new records in peak concurrency and daily unique users. I'm assuming that was during Resource Drive. And we saw huge increases in every metric, including 40 to 60% increases in average daily users and average peak concurrency. We also saw huge improvements with server stability, with 57% fewer player disconnections per 1 million player hours compared to 2024. Obviously, that was the thing. 2025 was truly the year of, I would say, stability in Star Citizen. I would not say playability. I would say stability. And I think that they still have a very long way to go on calling it the year of playability. I want this year to be the year of playability. That's the thing, is I don't want them to pat themselves on the back and just continue with the status quo. I want them to find places to improve. Like, it may sound like I'm complaining. This year was very good. but they still need to find places to improve. And I haven't heard them say, hey, but we need to find places to improve. Not once in this letter. And we've already moved on to Squadron. So what the fuck? On the Squadron 42 front, our focus throughout 2025 is to build on the progress of 2024, which is what we showed at CitizenCon, bringing the game content complete and closing out the remaining core tasks in preparation for beta. All chapters are now fully playable from beginning to end. I thought Xylo played all the chapters in 2015, and we've been playing through the game ourselves regularly. Squadron 42 is a large game, over 40 hours in length, and it's becoming increasingly clear how special it will be once the remaining polish, optimization, and bug fixing is complete. Again, this game is being developed more like a traditional game. So, yeah, all this makes total sense and is whatever. I'm just, patiently waiting for it. I think I will enjoy Squadron 42 more than most people because I actually loved Wing Commander games. I know exactly what to expect out of this game, and I am going to enjoy the heck out of it, no matter if it's a little bit buggy, if there's some whatever. It will be, as long as the story is somewhat engaging, I'm going to love it. Welcome back. Thank you. As a big part of what makes this possible is the technology we built at CIG over many years, the ability to move seamlessly from foot into a vehicle. You could fly and move around inside, down to a planet and across star systems, all without loading screens. Creates a level of immersion that's very difficult to replicate. Yep, 100%. That's what I said earlier. That combination of close-up interaction and galactic scale is at the core of what will make Squadron 42 so unique. It's what makes Star Citizen unique. Now keep it simple, stupid after that. Equally important is the quality of the content itself, from the writing and performance capture to characters, environment, ships, lighting, sound, cinematics, blah, 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 blah. It's something that you're very incredibly proud of, combined with deeply interactive systems. It creates an experience that pulls you into the world and keeps you there. Okay, sure, just stop talking and we'll see it when we see it. Stop setting expectations that you probably can't achieve. What continues to mean the most to us is community that has grown alongside this journey. I think the community has grown significantly more toxic this year. And I think for the right reasons. I think they're finally starting to see through the bullshit. And we'll see. And I don't think that's a good thing. You've given us your time, shared your perspectives, and chosen to take part in something that's truly bigger than all of us. It's the next great adventure where millions of like-minded explorers get to live among the stars, and we cannot ask for a better crew. Throughout the year, hundreds of bar citizens took place around the world, creating spaces where stories were shared, friendships were formed, and a shared passion for this universe came to life. We were fortunate enough to attend 24 of these in person, and each of which was a reminder of the care and creativity you bring to this community. These moments matter. They keep us grounded on why we do what we do, and they continue to inspire and motivate us in ways that are truly rewarding. I mean, dude, if they actually made a game, I wonder how much more grounded they would be. Like, if they made a game that they truly want to play themselves, which we all know very few of them do, I wonder where we would be. It would be crazy. That same energy carried through online. You organized racing events, watch parties, social meetups, and more throughout the year, bringing people together no matter the time zones or continents. CitizenCon Direct was a standout moment for us, with dozens of watch parties happening around the world simultaneously. Despite the distance between us, it genuinely felt like we were more connected than ever. Thank you for the time, patience, and passion you continue to share with us. Whether you joined us at an event, helped us test a build on the PTU, organized a gathering, or simply spend time experiencing the universe with others, you are at the center of our ambition, which is what makes the entire journey possible. Eye on the horizon. All right, this is what I've been waiting. I didn't know if this was going to be a thing because it was just this the whole time. This is the part I want to get to. What are you going to do? What did you learn from in 2025? Did you learn anything? Because there were definitely mistakes made. There were definitely things to learn from. So again, if I'm complaining, I'm not complaining. I'm pointing out the learning points. And it's like, hey, hopefully you learn from some of the experience. Hey, as somebody who plays the game and played the game more than ever, I mean, here was the pain, right? Because everything else felt like, hey, we were perfect. And it's like, no, you weren't at all. You were not perfect at all. You have a lot of work to do. I've not talked this much in a week. My throat can't handle it. This is interesting. Looking ahead to 2026, our focus remains clear. We'll continue improving stability and the depth of Star Citizen while expanding and connecting core systems. I mean, that was one of the biggest failures of the year. Not that it was an expectation. They set the expectations correctly that they were not going to do this. So it was not something I was expecting. But it's something I was epically looking forward to. Yeah, Wicklow was an attempt at that, I would say, sure. That shape how you play. And I think maybe they see how many people engage with Wicklow, as painful as it is, and went, hey, we maybe need to prioritize more of this. The shape how you play, from engineering to inventory, crafting, social tools mentioned, and other foundational features alongside expanding the playable universe itself. I personally don't care if we expand the playable universe. I think we need to expand how many players are in the playable universe. Here's the big thing that I run into issue-wise with a lot of what their decision-making is. If they don't expand the number of players in the play space that they have significantly, now, sooner than they expand the play space, they're going to find that they need to instance everything. And I don't think we want an instanced everything. I think we need to optimize everything, add more players, fill the world, make it feel alive with both players and NPCs, and show those experiences to players, allow them to experience each other. I hope in ways this year that every time you interact with another player, it's not a majority a negative experience, which I think the current way the game plays and why it works now is that you mostly never experience other players. So the people that you're playing with or your solo experience is largely unaffected by the fact that the game is a multiplayer world. And every time you interact with other players, that becomes a negative experience. I think we need to push each other together in the next couple of years a lot more to create the rules of the world. What is Stanton going to be like? What is Terra going to be like? Versus what is Nyx going to be like? Versus what is Pyro going to be like? And that's important. Need to take a few pages out of Sea of Thieves. I don't know how Sea of Thieves works, but I don't think that that's the game you need to be thinking about here. I'm talking more about games like EVE Online, where, hey, if you're in a high security space and you attack somebody, the NPCs come out of the woodworks and blow you up. And there's ways to take advantage of that in EVE Online, and maybe there will be in Star Citizen. But there's systems in place that actively maybe not prevent you, but what is the word? It makes you think twice about doing it, right? I hope that's a big focus for the year is, and this is just my feelings, I don't know what he's going to say here. Yeah, discouragement is a big thing. Like in a place like Stanton, you want to discourage, or deterrence. Yes, thank you guys. Discourage or deterrence. We want to deter that kind of behavior. Where in Pyro, you want to encourage that kind of behavior, right? Where you funnel people to a hot spot. Things like that, like contested zones. That's where and then those type of players that like, PvP are encouraged to go to a place like Pyro. And then the players who don't are encouraged to go to a place like Stanton with the positives and negatives that come with both. Again, sounds very simple. CIG doesn't like simple. So I don't know. Hold on, I have to sniffle. I'm not used to actually having moisture and not having a dry nose. It's a crazy experience. Server meshing will become more dynamic, allowing the mesh to reconfigure in real time based on player activity and server load. So he's essentially confirming that dynamic server meshing will be a thing in 2026. We'll see about that, hopefully. This evolution is foundational to support the large-scale group experiences we've always envisioned and will enable us to expand the universe even further. Again, I don't want you to expand the universe. I want you to expand the number of players in the universe. That's like very, very, very important. Is the more we expand the universe, the less we interact with each other, the less the game is better, in my opinion. But we need those deterrents. Our goal is to have thousands of players in the same shared universe instance. Okay. That's exciting. That's a goal. How much of it will be instanced? This will be really interesting to see how they do this. I don't know about you, but I think something that will truly feel really special, and this is, not something that you would expect to hear from me, is to look out the window of an Everus Harbor, or to look out the window of a Lorville, or to, at Microtech, and see lots of people coming and going. Just be floating above a space station and just watch the game feel alive. I think that's very, very important, right? I want it to be more like the Hull C advert. Yeah, for sure. I think that would be very cool. Seeing ships coming and going, having an idea of what they might be doing, which is something I want to cover today on stream, actually. Over the holiday, I did cargo missions in EVE Online. And the smallest thing made them so much better than Star Citizens. It wasn't even funny. The tiniest thing. Components of the server meshing systems are also being leveraged to deliver instance areas and experiences, allowing our designers to craft balanced content that integrates seamlessly into the universe. Again, I think that is a massive W, if not overused. If used at Siege, if used at the Yormandi, if used at ASD, great. If used at Hathor, bad. Hathor's essentially Jumptown now, right? It's the closest thing we have to it. Then that's bad. So I think it's going to get used at the big worm, the irradiated Valacar, but we'll see. We also do know Hathor is getting a worm at some point, right? So, yeah, we'll have to see. As we expand outward, we're also building deeper. Genesis planets represent our next step in planetary tech. I don't care what the planets look like, but I think they already look fantastic. I am so massively excited for this because hopefully this does bring the context that they're talking about with the biomes, and hey, I go here and I find this. I go there and I find that. That's really what I'm looking for. Offering breathtaking worlds with significantly improved graphical fidelity, a lot denser, more dynamically assembled biomes. These planets are driven by the rules of nature and our designers creating ecosystems that feel alive and authentic, combined with Starkitect locations throughout, which again, I think is incredibly important. I will quickly talk about that EVE experience right now. EVE is a much more simple game, and it's way easier to do this. But hear me out here, because I feel like Star Citizen can at some point do this, but it was incredible how something so simple made sense. It was taking items. It was a cargo mission, and it was items that were specific for cargo missions. So not a piratable loot, just like we have now where they do with the cargo things. So I think that's a big mistake that CIG made. Was I was moving fertilizer. I was moving seeds. I think the best example is in the region that I was in for EVE players. I was in Caldari space, which is a very capitalist. Capitalism is king in Caldari space. At a Quaif factory. So again, for people who play EVE know that Quaif is a company in game. This is why it's so comparable to Star Citizen. Is they have companies that make things. Not Quaif, Quaif. Quafe. They make drugs, and you take these drugs, and they give you bonus to shields, bonus to this, bonus to that. Okay, and the factories in which those are made in the game. One of the missions I had, this is so simple, and it was all just like we have. It was red text, nothing with voice acting. Said, hey, I need you to move this much SCU, their version of SCU is M3, to this Quaif factory because the workers are getting upset about the working conditions and they're starting to revolt. So I need you to bring cigarettes over there to calm them down. Cigarettes are not a commodity that are traded amongst players. Really. There's no purpose to them in the game. You don't use them in any way. They're not a consumable. They're not used for crafting that I'm aware of. But all of a sudden, this cargo mission made sense. Right? It's like, oh, okay. The best commodity is space hookers. Yeah, they have that. So it was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, right? It gave context to the world. And so immediately when I read Starchitect, it was like, all right. With Starchitect, my hope here is that these companies in the Star Citizen universe actually need the consumables that they need to build the things that they build. But they also need, and this is where the cargo missions could improve, is these other tangibles that aren't necessarily things that we interact with, but you're running your cargo to and from those. Things like that. It's a simple thing like just changing the name on the box and telling a different story and giving context. I thought it was so simple, right? Because all it is the name of the location and choosing what happens at those locations, right? It isn't that crazy. Like I see a bunch of copium things, but it's only copium because it's the most simplistic idea imaginable. But I don't think Chris or anybody that works at the company understands simplicity and how well it works. Like I was bored. So I did something I never did in EVE before, and that was delivery missions, or they're called distribution missions, I think, and was like hit in the face with like, wow, how come this is more enjoyable when the Star Citizen experience in general is significantly more enjoyable? Star Citizen kills it with the idea of, the flying to and from, actually landing your ship, all that. EVE sucks at that. Absolutely is horrible at that, right? Star Citizen has its benefits. The thing is that what Eve does well, Star Citizen could easily do, is the argument here. They just don't. Genesis' plan is to deliver both the environmental depth and the gameplay density we need. This is the curious thing about the gameplay density. Do we need thousands of locations? Maybe. I don't know what the goal they're going for is. I think yes. I think in a place like Stanton, yes. In a place like Terra, yes. In a place like Pyro, no. Not as much. Pyro's supposed to kind of be the frontier, right? Sort of. Same with Nyx. Supporting this will be a new AI population management system that creates and inhabits appropriate to their local environment and enables more complex interactions between agents. I'll believe that one when I see it. This approach to building, living, breathing planets is key to scaling the game to the heights we're aiming for. I struggle with this with them. Is they want their hands on everything and they never really let it be a sandbox. That's the game they want to build. It may not be for me. We'll see. I'm going to let them build it. I'll keep pointing out that, like, hey, man, the idea of the sandbox stuff is huge. Like, don't forget that. We're also upgrading core systems that have been with us for years. As part of our item recovery work, inventory, insurance, and cross-patch persistence are all getting significant improvements. Do improvements mean Band-Aids? Or do improvements mean we're doing it? I mean, we know tier 1 item insurance is coming. We know the inventory thing is coming. Item recovery has to come with, some of the skins and stuff in the game, stuff like that. The focus is on making it easier to interact with your belongings. That's huge, hopefully, while improving the stability and speed of these systems overall. They need to improve massively. These are integral parts of any MMO experience, and getting them right matters. Yeah, absolutely. He's saying the right things here. Will you achieve that? This is, out of everything I've read, this is the most important thing to me. And I am I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. For Squadron 42, our priority remains quality and polish as we move towards beta and release. We're confident in the direction of the game, in the direction the game is headed, and are fully focused on delivering. We know many of you are eager to play, and we're looking forward to putting it in your hands. We don't plan on a long, drawn-out marketing campaign, as we've already done our share of trailers and gameplay previews. Nobody knows your game exists. This is idiotic. This tells me that they maybe can't afford what it takes to do that, potentially. People need to know your game exists. Will Twitch and YouTube be enough? Oh, to you, that tells you they aren't confident in their 2026 window. To me, they're confident that word of mouth will work. I don't think that they're out of their 2026 window. I don't think they should release around GTA, though. So, is that 45 mil from the callers used up? Of course it is. Go look at their funding tracker. Go look at all the things. That money was spent a long time ago. I don't see why you wouldn't market it if you were confident. It could be a money thing. That's what I'm saying. Is they don't think that they need to invest, 10, 20, $30 million into marketing. When it's time, you and the rest of the gaming world will hear a lot more from us. And the rest of the gaming world. And they said long drawn out. Okay. I mean, what would be examples of long drawn out marketing campaigns? I think GTA did a couple trailers. How long was Starfield's campaign? Yeah, meanwhile, they've done Inside Star Citizen for fucking 14 years. That's true. Right, good point. Like Cyberpunk at E3 and Gamescom, maybe he meant. Yeah, I think it's totally fine that like let GTA release or release before GTA, and maybe a few months before just go hard. That makes sense. That's what this is implying to me. So to the people who are like losing confidence from this, I feel like it's just like, hey, we're not going to be annoying and start the process now. And yeah, to me, this more likely means 2026. That's interesting. Yeah. The different ways that we're thinking here. Thank you for your continuing to share your time, your feedback, and your passion for this universe. Only if it's positive. Don't have passion if it's frustrated. Star Citizen Squadron 42 exists because of all of you, and that's something I will never take for granted. From all of us at Cloud Imperium Games, we wish you a happy holiday season and a great start to the new year. You too, Chris. I wish you were a little bit more genuine there. But that's a lot of patting on the back. The next year focus was very vague. I thought that was smart because last year's was not that vague. It was pretty precise, which is where you were able to call them out for BS. I think the inventory, crafting, social tools, and then other foundational features like opens up the door still for base building. Not mentioning base building is definitely something to take note of there. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I am approaching this coming year basically the way I approached the end of the year, and that is until you are creating an actual experience that is from start to finish something that you play day in and day out, and not something that you take screenshots of, and something that is rushed out to sell a spaceship. It's hard to get overly excited for. And I just kind of play it as it comes. I don't really listen to the letters from the chairman. I don't listen to the random things that people make up that are going to happen in 2026, or this, that, and the other thing. Like all the speculative stuff. Speculation's fun. I think we all do it a little bit. But I think you noticed in this year, I spent a lot more time going, what's right in front of me? What's fun about it? What's not fun about it? And that's the approach I'm taking to 2026. What's our end of February most likely patch? What's in it? What's not in it? What's fun about it? What's not? End of March, end of April, if that's what they're doing again. And I'm a very much a one step at a time. Star Citizen has ruined any level of excitement for the distant future that I can have for it, because they have just bullshitted us for so many years about what's going to happen soon, TM. That never happens. And if it does happen, they immediately ignore it in the game and let it devolve to a state that makes it unplayable in many situations, and then requires a full rework instead of maintaining it throughout the process, things like that. Yeah, I'm just going to enjoy it one step at a time. I'm going to enjoy a lot of other games this year. That is definitely my focus. And yeah, I think, like I said, I think Star Citizen has the most insane amount of potential that is being massively wasted by just not keeping it simple and providing a simple experience inside of the incredibly in-depth experience they've already created, right? But yeah, that's my letter reaction. It's long, and I hope you enjoyed it.